Hey guys, Kevin Muldoon here. What I'm going to do in this video is just talk about my trip to Vienna to attend the WordCamp Europe event. I've written the article. It's about 6,000 words though, so I want to do a little bit of a recap, just so that a lot of people don't like reading articles; they prefer to watch videos. So I'm going to place the video at the top of the article, and I'll place a link to the article at the bottom of this video. So if you want to check out the article, you can do. So the event was held on the 24th and 25th of June in Vienna, and on the 26th they had what's called a Contributors Day, where you can help out and contribute. I did the Contributors Day in Seville last year, but I didn't do it this year. I didn't really feel like I got a lot of it last year, and I preferred to just go and do some tourist things. So my girlfriend Lisa joined me, and we went from the 23rd of June to the 28th. So we kind of had like half a day, or most of the day before the event, and then we had 2 full days for doing things after the event. The whole trip was amazing. Vienna is without doubt one of the most beautiful cities in the world. It's just full of history, and it's hard to kind of put that in words, until you're walking around the city, and it's just everywhere you go, it's all these big, huge stone buildings, palaces everywhere. It's really clean. It feels safe as well. If you look at all these articles about the best places in the world to live, Vienna is always near the top, and you can understand why. Now, this was my second WordPress event. First one was in WordCamp Europe in Seville the year before, and I wasn't getting to this event blind. I kind of knew what was going to happen at the event, and it was amazing. I had a fantastic experience from a video recording point of view. Now, those of you who read my blog or who participate in Rise forums, you'll know that I says that I was going to record videos for you all, and I did manage to record a couple of videos for you all. I did like a couple of short videos, but it was really poor on my part. I didn't really plan ahead what to do, and the conditions for recording weren't very good either. So, a good example is that, like, when you actually go into the event, it's so busy that when you pull out your camera to record, you wouldn't really be able to hear me talking. I pulled out the camera, I think it was after one of the talks and before the next talk, and then they come on so quickly that I couldn't talk, so I had to stop recording. And then it was so warm out in Vienna. The days of the event, it was, I think someone said 35 degrees, but it was super, super warm. So you couldn't really stand outside. You had to go to the shade. And I actually recorded a video, I think it was the second day, where I did a 10-minute recap, and I was in the shade. I didn't realise this at the time, but when I put it in my computer later on, I realised there must have been some sort of wind tunnel or something, because you couldn't hear me, which is probably for the best, because I noticed there was a bit of food in my teeth as well. So it was pretty poor from start to finish, as far as recording goes. But I think that's okay. I think that there's no really need for me to document it, because there's a lot of videos from the organisers. They record most of the talks. They do some videos around the place as well, and I didn't want to be the guy who who's walking about recording rather than having fun. There was a point where I actually pulled out my camera, and I kind of saw the guy next to me go, oh, like, he was a bit like ready to move away because he thought I was going to start recording, and I was considering it, but I didn't want to do that either. I didn't want to put the camera in anyone's face and things like that. It would have been good if there was a room where I could have interviewed a few people, but it is what it is. But the event was great. The actual place it was held, it was called Museums Quartier, and it was amazing. We had a little tour guide book, top 10 things to do in Vienna, and where the conference was held was actually one of the places it told you to visit, and it was fantastic. It dominates like 3 or 4 blocks. It's huge. It looks like a palace basically. It's got this big massive plaza in the middle, and it was a great venue. It was a great venue to look at. It was a great venue to visit. But I think, this is one of the things I say in my article, I think from a networking point of view, I think that Seville was better. Seville was a lot simpler. It was a conference hotel, and they had this big, huge area where they had like comfy seats and things, and then they had the halls. There was less people at the event. And the problem with this was there was all these, it had the high ceilings, and it had all the little rooms going everywhere. But the way it was designed, it felt a little bit crowded all the time. and it felt a little bit difficult to find people. There was a few times where there was people just around the corner and you couldn't see them, so you didn't, it was hard to kind of meet the people that you wanted to meet in that respect. Well, that's how I found it. But the event started off on a Friday morning, and you arrive, you register, you get your name badge. You can see I've got a Mastermind sticker on it as well. Check that out, by the way. That's John Gallier's website, mastermind.fm. It's a podcast website. Some really good episodes in that. We arrive at just after 9 o'clock, and you get your name badge, and then there's just all these booths, and it was the same in Seville, but there's all these booths, and you can go and get free swag. And this is one of the t-shirts I've got. This is from sitelock.com. It's a security firm, and I actually love this t-shirt. It feels great, and this is a t-shirt I'd actually wear out because it's it's not blatantly a geek t-shirt, if you know what I mean. And yeah, so I got a few t-shirts from Bluehost. I got the official WordPress t-shirt. I think I got one from Automatic for Jetpack as well. And you get little notepads and pens and things like that. I got socks from SiteGround, the hosting company. So yeah, and it's kind of hard not to get caught up in it because you think, I'm not too bothered, and then you're like, oh, free t-shirt, and you go and you grab one and you talk to them. So it's quite fun just at the start. So the event started, we all went in, and starts off, they do like an opening remarks thing. They tell you what's going to happen at the weekend. So the first talk that we watched was from Mike Little, who's a co-founder of WordPress. And I was annoyed that I didn't get to meet Mike because he actually went by a few times, but he was talking to people and I didn't want to interrupt him. But he came across as a really nice guy, really humble, and his talk was fantastic. I really enjoyed listening to how it started and why they went the direction they did. It was really interesting. And after that, though, we kind of left the talk. In the morning they didn't have any coffee and that ready, but as far as drinks go, I think this was something that they really handled better. At the start they didn't have any coffee and that ready, so when Mike Little his talk had finished, we left because we were tired. We wanted to get coffee, so we went down the stairs. And once they actually got things out, it was fantastic. The full weekend, they had they had coffees, they had teas, they had Coca-Colas and orange juices everywhere. They had pastries, they had apples. The thing is with Seville is they had the kind of food and drinks out, at the breaks, but in between there was nothing really there, and it was always crowded, and they didn't really have enough water. And because of the sun in Seville, that was a big concern. But in Vienna, they got things perfect. It was really good. You could, anytime you were thirsty, anytime you were hungry, you could just walk over and grab something. So it was really good that way. And it was an absolute, it's hard to put into words how nice this building was. It really was beautiful. It's the sort of thing that you would imagine that your city would have, like Parliament or a city hall, something, it's like a big official building. But from a networking point of view, it was kind of like all these kind of nooks and crannies. Just for networking, I thought that was it wasn't the best. Outside in the plaza, it was beautiful. The sun was shining. They've got little bars and cafes all around the place, and it was amazing. We watched in the afternoon. We had lunch. Now the lunches at the WordCamp. Last year it was a big massive buffet style. This year it was kind of like a cafeteria. You had to go along, and because I was vegetarian, I got to go in. And then I just picked up, a roll, then a muffin, that kind of thing. You put it all in a little lunch bag. It was quite good. I actually thought, from my point of view, for vegetarians, it was better. They handled vegans and vegetarians better this year. But last year in Seville they had beer, so it's hard to say which one's best. But on the first day after the lunch, there was a Q&A with Mark Mullermeg, and I really enjoyed the talk. And again, this is something I can expand a little bit more in the article, but I felt that the talk was a little bit, it felt a little bit artificial. It felt a little bit too rehearsed. And the reason I'm saying that is last year there was, I can't remember if it was one or two questions, but I remember one in particular. Someone asked a kind of quite a sticky question that really probably shouldn't have been answered. Probably shouldn't have been asked at the Q&A. And Matt answered it. But this year, what they did was they basically pre-approved the questions. So they pre-approved the questions, and at the very end they said, well, we'll put it out to the floor, and then the host Brian says that I think this one is prepared, and the person asked the question, and then the next one came from someone from Google search, and it was just really set up. I didn't enjoy that. Actually what Matt was saying about things I really enjoyed. I'd rather they just didn't call it a Q&A and they just, had a talk. That would have been better. The fact was it wasn't a Q&A. People from the audience, they could, I don't know if they asked them to email or tweet the questions in, but it just didn't, the way it was organised, I didn't like it. I just thought it was a little bit fake. It felt like, when you get talk shows, David Letterman, well, he's retired now, but, like Conan and things like that, Jimmy Kimmel, that kind of thing, where the guest goes on and they try and make it look natural when they ask a question. Oh, so I heard that you had a funny story about this, and it was kind of like that, It was very fake. Obviously, the questions were prepared. Now, again, I understand why they have to do this. They can't have people asking really difficult questions at an official event like this. That I do understand. I just think because of that, though, it felt a little bit sterile, and I felt that the discussion in the Q&A could have been better if the questions were not so filtered. I think that's the best way. But the questions were a little bit filtered, so only the positive questions were coming. Nothing really difficult was coming. And again, I don't want to watch the event and see someone asking difficult questions. If I had to ask Matt a difficult question, whether it be about the thesis domain or anything like that, anything that's perhaps not something he wants to address on WordCamp, I would never ask him at the Q&A. I would never do that. I would ask him privately. But I do understand why, some people feel differently than me. I still enjoyed it though, and check out my article. I've got a link to the Q&A so you can watch it yourself and you can see what I'm talking about. It was still a great talk, just let me clarify that. I did enjoy the talk, but I would have preferred it if it was a little bit more organic. The questions weren't filtered so much, and it was a bit more natural. We watched a few other talks. It was a really good one. I think it was Peter Wilson, and he did a talk on optimization. That was really good. But apart from that was the last talk that I watched at the weekend. The rest of the time, I just kind of spent my time hanging out outside, and I was chatting to a lot of folk. I caught up with a lot of good people. Throughout the weekend, I was hanging out with Simon and Colm from commonsgurus.com, James from Llama Press, who else? Charlie from A-Themes. Charlie, I write for his blog sometimes, and he's a member on Rise Forums. And I caught up with John Galea and his wife Ilyona, the WPMU dev guys, and I met a few new people. In fact, I've got his card here so I pronounce this right. The blogger Nick Schafferhoff, he's a writer, and I met a few other guys, pronounce it Ascat, from Blogvolt, and Asmos from Pixel Rockstar. Yeah, those guys were lovely. I met those guys in the last day, and the two of them were fantastic. We talked a lot about WordPress, and it was great meeting up with those guys as well. And I also met the guys from CodePress. I'd written a review of the admin columns for Tobias years ago. I didn't actually do it for him. I'd been looking for a solution to do to filter my columns so that I could display the featured image and things. And I found this plugin called Admin Columns that had just been released. So I did a review and I said, this plugin is awesome, you should check it out. And Tobias came over and he said that actually helped them out because they had just released. And it's strange, you don't realise that as a blogger, that sometimes when you're doing articles for your readers, that you're also helping out the developers. Sounds a bit silly saying that, but when I find a good plugin, I'm just like, oh, you need to check this out. You forget sometimes that you're also helping out the developer, because you're not thinking about them, you're thinking about your readers, you're thinking about the person that you're helping, the reader who subscribes to your blog. But it was great connecting with those guys, Timothy and Vaughn from WPMU Dev. There was a lot of people I didn't meet that I wanted to meet. James Farmer from WPMU Dev was there. David Braun from Template Monster. Wanted to meet Mark Mullenweg and Mike Little. I didn't catch them. And there was a lot of people that I'd actually reviewed their items on my blog, and I didn't get a chance to catch up with them. So it's really my bad. I really need to get better at networking in that respect. The problem was I was having such a good laugh and just chatting away with the people that I already knew that I didn't really go and seek anyone out to actually to speak to them. So that is something that I need to rectify. What I think I need to do at the next event is to look at the attendees list and then look down and go, right, I need to talk to that guy, I need to talk to that guy. I'll send them an email or a tweet and say, hey, we should meet up and grab a beer when we're there. And I need to be more proactive about that. I don't want to be one of those guys that just spends the whole day buzzing about the room. I want to enjoy myself. But at the same time, if there's people there that you'd like to meet and you'd like to connect with, I think it makes sense to go and connect with them. Overall, though, it was amazing. That at night time we were just chilling out, getting a few quiet beers, going out for dinner and things like that. On the Saturday, I didn't go to any talks at all. I slept in, actually, because I couldn't sleep the previous night. Slept in, and we didn't get to, me and Lisa didn't get to the conference until I think it was lunchtime. It was 12 o'clock and lunch was just coming out. But it was actually worked out great because I wasn't tired at night. I didn't go to any talks. We chatted to everyone during the day, and at night time they told us that we were going to Paris. So we went. The next year's event's going to be at Paris. At the night time there was the after party, and they called it this year. They called the WordPress Ball because they wanted some people. They wanted people to kind of turn up and make an effort, and turn up with the penguin suit, the bow tie and all that kind of thing, or the dress if you're a lady. And some people did do that, but it wasn't practical for us to do that. Nor that I had no intention to do it, if I'm honest. It wasn't practical because we had a small carry-on bag, and we were flying with EasyJet. We didn't, and it was basically an extra £60 each to put a bag in. It made no sense. We were only there for 5 days, and I'd have to have hired a suit and all that, and it just seemed silly for one night. And I'm glad we didn't, because when you got there was people in their shorts and t-shirt at the event, so it was a little bit pointless to do that anyway. But as far as the ball goes, now, not to criticise anyone who organised the event, because I think the event was organised really well. It was fantastic, amazing location, the weather turned out to be brilliant, everything went according to the schedule, it went like clockwork. It was a fantastic event, I can't stress that enough. But for me, and for a few people that I spoke to, the ball was a little bit, it was a little bit of a disappointment. And basically what they did was they held the ball at the same location as the conference. So it was basically where the talks were being held during the daytime. And right away we were like, how's that going to work, But we arrived, and they gave you a token when you walked in. So you walked in back to where you were all day. And again, that's bizarre, because I liked it last year. In Seville, what happened last year was we had the hotel, and then the after party was away downtown next to the river in this beautiful little bar. And it was better going. I thought it was great going somewhere different. This year it felt like returning to the scene of the crime. You were going to the same location where all the talks were being held, and it wasn't a good venue in my opinion. It really wasn't. You walked in, they gave you a token. So they gave there's one token. We walked up, and they said it's one token gets you a beer, or it's 2 tokens of rum. And we're like, we've only got 1 token. How can you even get a spirit? So we walked into the event, and it felt really like a school disco. It was really dark, but the problem with the halls, and this is a problem that they had during the whole event, was that it was really warm. See, during the talks, I sat through 2 of the talks after the match Q&A, and it got unbearably warm. The air conditioning just wasn't working. I just don't think Vienna's prepared for that. It's not always warm, and it was so uncomfortably warm that I just didn't want to go in and watch any more talks. And it felt like that at the after party. You walked in, and it was really warm, and it was really busy. It was that kind of way where you're shuffling by everyone, and you're trying to get by just to get to the bar. And we went up the stairs, and we sat outside in the plaza. And the plaza would have been such a bit, it would have been, obviously they can't do that because it rains, and it did rain at the end of the night. But the plaza was such a better location. It was spacious. It was more comfortable. So we went outside. We were drinking a beer, and then we went back in to get another beer. And at this point we realised that you have to buy some tokens. Now, we didn't realise that, but when we were walking in, there was lots of people when we had 1 token. People had just walked in the door the same as us, because we saw them arriving, and they were pulling out their pocket piles and piles and piles of tokens. Obviously there's a sponsors or something had been giving them tokens for the event so that they could get some drinks. But we were all standing there with 1 token each, and it just seemed like everyone around us had tokens, like piles of tokens. They were basically having a free night, and we were standing there going, oh great, it's going to be like €7 for a Coke, great. For a rum and Coke or whiskey and Coke. which is quite expensive. It was the prices for some of the drinks were, like for spirits anyway, was probably twice the price of what you pay in bars outside. And the venue was, it looked like a school disco. It was pitch black, and then, you know, it was really warm and it was really busy. And I just did not feel, maybe because I'm older, when I was younger I probably loved it, but I don't know, I didn't enjoy it. So what we did was we ended up going to a little bar that we'd been to another night, and it was fantastic. It poured at the end of the night, but I was laughing because me and Lisa went home. The guys went back to the ball, and Colin was saying that he went up and he's like, "Oh, can I get a few beers?" And they're like, "Yeah, do you need tokens?" He's like, "All right, okay, I'll buy some tokens." And they're like, "No, the tokens, you can't buy them anymore." And he was like, "But," and he couldn't buy it, so the bar was still open, but you couldn't buy tokens. So they were just like, "All right, so I guess we're going home." Seriously, don't put a token system in if you want to buy alcohol. It's just such a pain. Just, if you've got money, sell me alcohol. Is it that difficult? I'm not even a big drinker anymore. You know, I probably drink like once a month. But when you're away, you want to enjoy yourself. I just find it frustrating. But again, I was talking to some other people, and they said that they had a fantastic time and they thought it was better than Seville. So it really depends on your point of view and what you prefer. Personally, I thought it would have been better if they had the event, you know, somewhere different. But this isn't a criticism of the people organising it. I realise you can't please everyone with these kind of things, and you just have to kind of go with the flow and just enjoy yourself regardless of what you're doing. The last few days we did sightseeing. So we saw, what did we see? We saw Hofburg Palace. We went to the cathedral, St. Stephen's Cathedral, and the next day we went to, I can't even pronounce it, I forgot the thing around here. It's Kirchhoff or something. It's in fact, I'll check the article, I'll show you it. This is it. Here it's here. I can't even pronounce it. The Karl Kirch Church. That was absolutely fantastic. And then we went to the Belvedere Palaces. It was a great day out, and if you've never been to Vienna, forgetting about WordPress, if you just want to go a city break and you're in Europe, I would definitely recommend to go to Vienna. Absolutely beautiful city. I'd love to actually go and visit more of Austria in general now after going there. But yeah, so some minor criticisms there, not really much really, considering I sometimes complain about things. Yeah, it was a great event, really well organised. Thousands of people there, probably a couple of thousand at the event, 2,000 at least, and even thousands more who were streaming the events live. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I do think in the future what I need to do is network a bit more, you know, and I don't mean that in a kind of smoothie, kind of, you know, handing your business card every 2 minutes. I think I've emailed tens of thousands of people over the years about WordPress, you know, about reviews, about products, about themes, plugins, all these kind of things, and it'd be good to meet the people there. And what I found was a couple of people that I met was that they were actually last year's event, and I didn't know. So there'll probably be lots of people there who might want to meet me or who know of me, and they were there last year and this year, and then we didn't meet. So I think I need to try and be a bit more proactive about trying to meet people when I'm at these events. Not to the point where I'm not enjoying myself, but just at least make an effort, really, without just going there as if it's some, like, you know, just a holiday. So that's something I'm hoping to do. Next year's going to be in Paris, so I'm going to get the tickets for that very soon. It's going to be amazing, and you know, if you're involved in the world of WordPress, I do recommend you trying to go. There's one in Belfast as well. It's going to be the first WordCamp in Belfast, so I'm going to go over to that October 1st and 2nd. And one of the reasons going out, my brother lives there, so it's a good excuse to go over visit my brother. We'll do some touristy things as well, and then we'll go to the event. So that's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of people are talking about there's a WordCamp in USA, you know, the big one. I think it's in Philadelphia again this year. So if I'm right, that's in December. I'm not sure if I'm going to go. It would be good, but I'm going to see how we got on in Belfast first, and if I could go over for that, you know, if I can justify it cost-wise, you know, because I don't want to get to the point where I'm going to WordCamp every month. But yeah, if I could go over to that, I think that would be a really great place to visit as well. And it's a little bit different from Europe. I'm going to meet a lot of people that I would never meet in Europe. So I think that would be a great trip as well. I'm not 100% on that one yet, but I'm definitely going to Belfast. So yeah, if you've never been to a WordPress event before, a WordCamp, I would definitely recommend it. It's really good, and it is kind of hard. I was kind of nitpicking, as far as the ball, the venue wasn't good and things like that, and the token system, things like that. But at the end of the day, these are just little things. The event was amazing. It was organised really well, and I had a great time. And I'm so excited about going to next year. That shows you how much I like the event. So I do recommend check out my article. That will explain in detail a little bit more about how the event went. But yeah, it was great, and I apologise again for not recording more videos. And but I did. I tried to do my best, and yeah. So please do, if you're involved in WordPress, please do look for WordCamps in your area and at least try and get involved some way. Just if you're involved in WordPress, you don't realise it at the time, but there's millions of other people out there who are working in WordPress as well. So I think if you've got the opportunity to connect with people, even on a local basis or in your country, then I think it's worthwhile doing that. And I'm only kind of starting to realise the potential of doing that, as far as making business contacts, as far as making, just friends as well, and just networking with really good people who do the same thing as you. So I'm really excited to be going to more WordCamps in the future, and I hope you've enjoyed this little recap about the trip. And again, check out my article. I'll link to the article beneath YouTube, and if you're watching this video on my page, then just look below and you'll see it down there. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you've not already done so, please drop by Rise Forums. We're going to be focusing more on WordPress there in the future, and it's something I'll be talking about soon. But please do drop by. There are a lot of great people there, and there's a lot of people who hang out in the forums who do go to WordCamps. And please do, if you've not already, please subscribe to the Rise Forums channel on YouTube. Thanks for watching, guys. Till next time, please take care and see you soon.